Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Swimbait79 here. Today's video is going to be about my best baits for the month of December. Alright, first bait on the list is going to be a crankbait. I prefer a square bill, whether it's a flat-sided or just a normal run-of-the-mill square bill crankbait. As the waters get colder, as we get into December and move through December into January, January being the coldest month up here in the Pacific Northwest. Pretty sure it's the coldest month around the entire country, but up here it's a little bit colder. I feel like up in the PNW. I tend to go with the flat-sided crankbaits. This produces a lot more fish in the first half of the month because it does get tremendously colder towards the end of the month. But for the first 2-3 weeks of December, I like to go with the square bill or a flat-sided square bill crankbait, like I said. Couple of companies that I prefer to use is going to be a 6 Cents, either a flat 75 like we have here, or these smaller versions. They're flat-sided, made with the circuit board. I think they dive to 4 foot. They're flat-sided 4s. They come in a bunch of different colors. I tend to stick with the crawfish patterns to bluegill patterns, as bluegill and perch is dominant forage up here in the PNW. We don't have shad in our waters like a lot of the rest of the country does, or most of the rest of the country do. But you can still get away with throwing shad colored baits up here in the PNW. They still get chomped. Far as sizes, try to get as big as you can get. If the water's really cold and you're not having any success with the larger sizes, I tend to downsize from there. Types of rods that I'm going to throw these baits on. So the type of rod that I like to throw most of my crankbaits on is going to be a Abu Garcia Vendetta Series Next Generation rod. This here is a 7 foot medium heavy fast action rod. One piece. I throw the larger size crankbaits on this with 17-pound fluorocarbon. It's just spooled with the 100 size reel. For my smaller size, like my Crush 50s here, I like to throw them on a 7 foot medium action rod, spooled with 12-pound fluorocarbon. Works perfect for these Crush 50s. I even throw the Movement 80s on 12-pound at times, more or less earlier in the year. As the weather warms, I start throwing that on the bigger setup, the 7 foot medium heavy. It just handles the fish a lot easier. These are I'm gonna be throwing on the 12-pound fluorocarbon, 7 foot medium action rod. These larger size crankbaits, I'm gonna probably beef up the rod and throw on 17-pound fluorocarbon, 15-pound fluorocarbon, depending on what I'm trying to achieve. But in most cases, I'm going to throw this on a 7'6" to a 7'10" crankbait rod. It is a larger lure. For those highly pressured waters, don't be afraid to throw the silent crankbaits. They will absolutely murder some fish. The thinner side crankbaits, I like to mess with the 6 Cents, but I also like this Rapala. It's OG Haute de Fauve Haut's Garage Slim 06. You can see this is caught me some very nice fish, both in the late fall and the early spring. The flat 75, and then you got the flat 4. A couple other noteworthy ones is going to be this Movement 80X. It's a L7. Dives 3 to 6 foot, depending on your line size. I tend to throw this on the 17-pound fluorocarbon, 7 foot medium heavy. I will put this on 12-pound fluorocarbon in the early springtime. It's caught me some very nice fish. It just dives a little bit deeper than your traditional movement ADX. Has a little bit different type of a bill. It's coffin bill shaped. This is a round bill. You easily see. All right, areas to fish the crankbait. Square bills, right along docks, right beside the docks. Make sure you hit all the corners of the docks. Another killer spot for crankbaits are going to be your rock walls, retaining walls, concrete, rock, riprap, whatever it may be. Want to hit the corners, the sides, hit everything on it. Hit it multiple times, multiple casts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, another hot spot to look over and look for is anything around any kind of wood. We have some overhanging trees. We got some couple of laydowns down inside the water below the surface. Make sure accurate cast. All right, bait number 2 is going to be a lipless crankbait, also known as a rattle trap. These over time have produced countless memories for anglers that utilize these in cold water and cold water situations. Some of my favorite ones are going to be the Strike King Red Eye Shad. Another one will be the Bill Lewis Rattle Trap. And my newest favorite is going to be the Berkeley War Pig. Other notable lipless crankbaits, like an OG, is going to be the LV 500 by Lucky Craft, I think it is. It's highly sought after. It's caught probably more 10-pounders than any other lipless crankbait that I've ever heard of. But nonetheless, these crankbaits right here will get bit in the colder weather, no matter where you live at in the United States. As you can see, I like a lot of the reds as I fish a lot of the grass lakes. This is a 3/4 ounce red eye shad. Has a shimmy on the way down. Just on a taut line, it kind of shimmies. Not many other lipless crankbaits do that on the fall. So that's one of the better things with this Strike King Red Eye Shad. They come in so many different colors. This has been around the block and then some. Has some hook rash on it. So let's start from the bottom. I like to mess with the sizes of 1/2 ounce. That's probably going to be my standard size to start with. If they don't bite the 1/2 ounce model, I will downsize to a 1/4 ounce. And if they don't bite that, then I'll just hang it up and go home. But for the most part, they're going to bite more than likely the 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce model. I tend to throw it on the same stuff that I would throw a typical frog on, especially if I'm fishing grass. This is a Berkeley War Pig right here. I have it on my typical frog rod, just a 7-foot medium heavy with a 100 size reel. I have 50-pound braid on there. I could rip this around any kind of grass, pads, open water, docks, rock, wood, anything like that. But mostly it's going to be, specifically for grass. Now, open water around docks, just over in open water general, not much grass, not much vegetation. I'm going to go with the 7-foot medium heavy, but it's going to be 17-pound fluorocarbon on there, or 15-pound fluorocarbon, depending on the size of the trap that you're throwing. A lot of times I'm going to throw these bigger traps on a 7'6" medium heavy, or 7'6" heavy action with 3. Since it's a 3/4 ounce, I'm going to bump it up to 65-pound braid on a 7'6" heavy action rod. That's kind of what I prefer for these bigger traps, especially fishing around the grass in the early spring. But late fall, like we have here, late fall, early winter, really I just kind of try to stick with the fluorocarbon. I tend to get more bites overall with the fluorocarbon than the braid. But I feel like I'll have better days with the braid fishing around grass than I will with open water lipless crankbaits, if that makes sense. This right here is I just forgot to talk about this. It's a copper, live target, coppers, lipless crankbait. Looks like a bluegill. I actually found this at a lake. The hooks got rusted, so I took it off. But man, I used to catch the shit out of some fish with this bait right here. Just chucking and winding. You know, if I'm not getting too much action on the bait cast gear, I will downsize with the lipless crankbaits down to the 1/4 ounce. This is a Berkeley War Pig, but I will put this on 8-pound mono on a spinning rod, on a fairy wand. Do not be afraid to downsize and put these on fairy wands. These have been catching big fish on fairy wands for 50, 60, 75 plus years. These baits have been around for a long time. Other than that, the hooks, I prefer changing most of your rattle trap standard stock hooks. I change them with the Eagle Claw number 4. And it's going to be 3X on the Eagle Claw number 4 red hook, which look like these right here. You don't have to go with red. You can go with black or nickel. It's up to you. I prefer the red hooks. They just make the bait look a little bit more sexy. All right, here we go. We're looking for spots to throw the lipless crankbait. This is a Berkeley War Pig. I have it on braid. We're around some grass, fishing a grass lake. I'm gonna just throw it down out there, let it sink all the way to the bottom, keep a taut line on it to be there. Kind of rip it up down inside the grass. You'll be cleaning a lot of grass off of your bait if you're doing the yo-yo technique, is what they refer to that as. You can just kind of feather it through the grass, tick the tops of the grass, tick the tops and the sides of the lily pad stems, as our lily pads are starting to die, so we have a lot of pad stems in the water. Once again, I like the browns, craws, reds this time of the year, or bluegill, whatever your natural forage is. Another great spot is when you have transitions from, let's say, trees and bushes all the way to a rock. A little rock transition. We have a little rip-rap corner right here. I see some grass right out in front, right where my bait is. I actually tick the top of that grass and have grass already on my lure. You can easily slap your bait on the water and it'll knock it loose. Be careful doing that with the square bills, as some companies and manufacturers have weak bills and you will slap the bill right off your crankbait. Sucks when you pay $10, $15 for that crankbait and you slap the bill right off it. As you can see, there's a bunch of submergent grass right there. There's a retaining concrete wall transition from the rock. Then we have docks. Sometimes the grass is a little bit heavy for your bait, but you can't get it wrong fishing this bait this time of the year. Again, one of my favorite baits for the month of December. Another hot spots are corners. A lot of bass are edge oriented. They will sit right on the corner of something, waiting for an unsuspecting prey to come by, which in this scenario happens to be my lipless. You cover a ton of water with these baits, whether it's open water flats, whether it's just the shoreline you're covering, or it's deep water, whatever it may be. These are highly versatile baits in the cold weather, even warm weather. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next bait is going to be a jerk bait. Can never go wrong throwing a jerk bait. A lot of people do not like a jerk bait. They don't know how to work a jerk bait. They have never caught fish on a jerk bait. I was the same at one time until I forced myself to like the jerk bait, and now I have a rod specifically for my jerk bait technique. So over the years, I have become a straight lover of the Strike King KVD 300 size jerkbait. There is a 200 size jerkbait, which has 2 hooks, and the 300 size has 3 hooks. As you can see right here, this is the 300 on top. This is the 200 on bottom. This is the IU color, clear IU. It is a fish catcher. Runs to about 4 foot. Depending on the line size, about 4 to 6 foot for this 300. The 200 is probably half that size. It's just a little guy, but it's more of a finesse type application, in my opinion. But this deal right here, this will get bit. I fish it on 8, 10, and 12-pound monofilament to fluorocarbon, depending on what you like. I like 8-pound monofilament, and I like 10 and 12-pound fluorocarbon for this, for the winter time, for for December, January, February. I will throw this thing on 8-pound monofilament, and it gets wrecked. Just a jerk bait, it's just a natural reaction type of a bait for a fish to come up and take a shot at. The colder it is, the more important the pause is. And that kind of stumps a lot of people. I have it on a 7.3 to 1 bait caster, but I fish it on also on a 5 to 1. Throwing it on a Fairy One with 8-pound monofilament forces me to slow way down to what I normally do. I'm usually a fast-paced angler. I like to cover lots of water. So I will jerk my jerkbait pretty fast. Like I said, putting on a Fairy One slows it way down, forces me to slow way down, especially with if the water's cold, the fish are definitely going to be slowed way down. It just takes a little bit of liking. Once you start catching fish with it, it will teach you a lot of things. I can't go wrong with throwing a jerkbait, starting off with a jerkbait just about every day that I fish from December on. I've had some days in the first 3 weeks of December, as I usually take a little break towards the end of the month with the holidays around the corner. But first 3 weeks of December are very pivotal for the old jerkbait. I've caught some very nice numbers. I've caught upwards of 14 fish in one day of fishing, each of them between 2 and 4 pounds. This is a 6 cents Provoke 106 in the wasabi color. Strike King makes their version of that color right here. It's called Strobe Light, or Strobe, maybe, something like that, similar. But nonetheless, they both get bit. Yeah, I can't say enough about a jerkbait. So the combo that I specifically bought for this jerkbait is a Shimano combo. It's a bait cast combo made by Shimano. I'm gonna get the schematics up here for you guys to be able to see this rod. I featured this rod many times in my videos over the years. This is a rod that you can easily find at Walmart. I bought this rod probably 4 years ago for $96. The reel is better than the rod, but the rod, I kid you not, is perfect for a jerkbait. I've caught some very nice smallmouth with this. It kept them pinned. I don't lose many fish on the jerkbait, but this just does it. It's a 6'8" medium action, fast action. the 150 size reel on there, 7:3:1 gear ratio. I put 12-pound fluorocarbon on there. Yeah, buddy. Got One Eye Willie right there. So that's on a bait caster. Now, when it gets really cold and I need to slow down, I need to really have long pauses, I'm not going to hesitate to put this on a fairy wand. This is in Clear IU. I have a suspend dot on there, right below the head, right towards the head of the jerkbait, and that is for a specific reason. But you can utilize those. I'll get into that in another video. But really, for the most part, you don't need to have suspend dots. The water's not cold enough. But water's still fairly warm, but you can catch a lot of good fish right now with the jerkbait. All right, let's go and see how I fish a jerkbait. So when I throw this on a fairy wand, I put 8-pound monofilament. Sometimes I'll go down to a 6-pound monofilament. If I do that, I have to retie quite often, as you will unknowingly snap these off on a cast. But 8-pound mono just makes it a little bit better where you don't have to retie as often. But sometimes on some finicky fisheries, you will need to drop down to 6-pound. You'll get a ton more bites with the 6-pound on a fairy wand with a jerkbait. I tend to try to keep under 7 foot so you don't slap the water. I'm just under 6 foot in height myself. So usually like a 6'8" to 6'10" is a perfect size rod for a jerkbait, whether it's a spinning rod or a bait caster. Just keep that in mind. All right, so we got the jerkbait out. This is the third bait for the month of December. This is a 6 Sense Provoke 106. This is in the wasabi color. I have it on my jerkbait outfit. Here we go. Docks are a wonderful place to throw jerkbaits in the wintertime, especially in the month of December. Cast it right over there. Wind it down a couple turns. Give it a couple quick slices up. I know that this is a shallow lake, so I'm going to have my rod tip up instead of down. And with that being said, I won't hook and run it through so much grass and so many obstacles. I won't have as many problems if I jerk upward rather than downward when I'm up super shallow or off to the side. I'm going to start off with a fairly fast cadence at first, just to make sure. You know, sometimes they'll start off blasting a fast cadence. You won't even have to play with the cadences at all, but you're going to have to play with the cadence a little bit to see what the fish are going to want. So you need to change it up in different areas just to make sure that they don't want this over that, you know. Make your short, accurate cast. Usually a jerk, jerk, pause. Jerk, jerk, pause. You always want to jerk with slack line. I make sure that this butt slaps the bottom of my forearm when I jerk downward. Just takes a little bit of practice. You're going to jerk that jerk bait straight out of the water. It happens to everybody. I don't care how good you say you are with the jerk bait. Still happens. The most important is just to develop a cadence that you're familiar with, that you it's easy. And throwing this in the upper north of the country helps you stay warm as well. You'd be surprised how many fish. Usually jerk, jerk, pause. Sometimes you just want to make it work real erratic and then kill it, and you see that thing slowly rise. But just look around it and sometimes you'll see a fish come and bum rush that thing. And the best thing about jerkbaits is they have 3 hooks on them. 3 hooks, so you know, if the fish doesn't really get a good solid hook in it, well, it's got two other hooks that are moving about, you're surely to get a fish. I lose plenty of fish on these things. You'll have a lot of fish that smash the fire out of it and they will not get hooked. I've only lost one really, really big fish on a jerkbait. I'll take that back. I lost two really big fish on a jerkbait. I've lost a double digit on a jerkbait during COVID. And before that, I lost probably an 8-9 pounder on a jerkbait. Both were heartbreaks. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Anyway, docks is just a great place. You make sure you hit the corners, the sides of the front, the back half of it. Just hit it all up. These can be wonderful baits to catch a ton of fish in a hurry. Sometimes these are vacuums. Highly underrated baits, especially for new anglers. Get familiar with this bait. Alrighty, fourth bait is a jig for my best baits for the month of December. As it gets colder, a jig is just a bait that you cannot look past. You need to be able to utilize this in the right time. Some people in the South, this is all they fish, is a jig. Catches giant fish no matter where you're at in the country. This happens to be a hybrid jig, 1/2 ounce. I like this up shallow. Pitch and flip this, cast it, drag it, whatever I need to do with this bait. It's a very versatile bait. Out offshore, out deeper, I like to utilize the football jig made by Strike King. It's a 3/4 ounce. I like to utilize the bottom contact with the heavier size jig. Sometimes I'll go up to a 1 ounce football head. A lot of times in the colder weather, instead of utilizing the soft plastic, big bulky craw type thing, I'll go with the twin tail grub and just go from there. Can never really go wrong with this type of a trailer. I have it both black and white in the 4-inch. Fits perfect on a 1/2 ounce, 3/8 ounce of a jig. Another type of craw trailer you could put on there is this bigger, longer profile. You can even cut this down if you needed to, no matter what type of water clarity you have. Yeah, you can't go wrong fishing a jig this time of the year, especially in the month of December. Month of December is still changing in a lot of the parts of the country. Up here in the PNW, I feel like a lot of the fish are still around, still up shallow possibly. I feel like they hadn't totally gone off and started to winter just yet. I feel like they make that move sometime in the middle of this month. Other than that, you can't go wrong. Let me show you where I like to fish jigs now. So the type of rod that I like to fish a jig on is a 7'3" medium heavy. I like to spool it with 50-pound braid if I'm around any type of cover. This lake is a tremendous grass lake, so I want to be able to have the amount of power that I need to be able to get a fish out of the cover, especially if it dives right into the grass. Or if I pitch this jig into the grass and I get a big bite, I need to be able to pull that fish out. Fluorocarbon I will use when I'm fishing offshore on a lot more than I use braid. I will use braid up shallow when I'm pitching and flipping a lot of times, but I will pitch a flip with fluorocarbon up shallow as well. It's just really in the early spring I like to utilize the fluorocarbon, but late in fall I like to utilize the braid, especially if I'm on a lake that I can get away with utilizing braid. 50 pounds, just a great thing to use. You can utilize just a normal 7-foot medium heavy, just your frog rod, all around type of a rod for a jig. If you're with the fairy wands and that's all you got, you can utilize that as well. All right, great place to start fishing a jig. Pitching and flipping it, let it sink all the way down, is right around some docks. You can never go around fishing docks, especially in the month of December as the fish are going to start to winter. There's always going to be some fish around some docks. But just remember, the water is cold. It's basically winter all across the country. So therefore, the fish are not going to be really super active. So a lot of times you got to slow up and be a little bit slower with your presentation. Let it sit there, dead stick it for a little bit. Let that jig marinate before you go to move it. You'd be surprised how many times you just let it sit there for 10 seconds untouched and you go to move it. Gives that time for that fish to swim up to your bait. Check all your corners. Check all your boat slips. Out in front of the docks, on the catwalks, on the sides. All right, another spot you can never go wrong fishing a jig is around wood. This is a massive laydown. We got multiple branches that hang out. We got grass around it that's dying. We have lily pads. I just like to pitch it out there. Let it fall all the way to the bottom and give a couple of little twitches, jerks. Just move it a little bit. I'm not going to really let it marinate in there all that much because I know that the fish should be fairly active enough to get that before it falls to the bottom. Or maybe thump right when it does get to the bottom. I'm definitely not going to fish it as fast as I would, summertime. Water temp is still 48 degrees. Still 48 degrees in a lot of places. Right now, currently, it's 46.94. So it's just below 47 degrees. Yesterday, I was at a body of water that was still 48 degrees. All right, fifth and final bait of my best baits for the month of December is going to be a umbrella rig slash Alabama rig, whatever you want to call it. Umbrella rig, cheater rig, whatever you want to call these. Be sure you check with your local fishing regulations, local state fishing regulations to make sure that you comply with them. I live in the PNW. I live in Washington State, so we're allowed to have 3 hooks. So that's why you see on this rig, it's multi-wire. Actually, it used to be 6-wire rig, but one of the wires broke off of it. So we only got 2 dummies now, and we got 3 lives. This particular rig right here is a Tactical Bassin Hog Farmer collaboration on a 6-wire rig. It's called the Flex rig. It runs 3 dummies up on top. They're just swim baits. They're normally going to be the smaller size swim baits. And then you put the 3 larger ones on the bottom. And sometimes even on the bottom middle, you want to target it for the fish to target. Because the fish are going to already hit this one. But for some reason, if you put a little, like dip the tip of your tail into the chartreuse, it will pretty much just mark that fish. They always hit that back bait, back lower bait. for some reason. A lot of times, and they'll still hit the side baits, but nonetheless, that's just a whole nother uh, talk about the umbrella rigs as far as dyeing that middle one. But this here is a flex rig. So as you move it, you could either turn your handle or your reel, or you could twitch your rod, and it makes that rig flex in and out, just like a real bait ball would. Of course, you got these little blades right here. You do have to bend this yourself. I highly recommend not bending it straight at the head. I highly recommend coming down at least an inch and then making your bend. It's less stress on your wire right here. I don't care if it's made out of titanium like Strike King tries to sell you on, but they will straight break regardless if they're titanium wire or not. Hog Farmer and Tactical Bassin, I put my money on their products anytime. They're very knowledgeable dudes that fish, and that's what they do for a living. This is their other finesse flex rig. Has 3 blades, 3 wires. I put 3 live hooks on it, with this middle one, bottom middle, going to be my 1/4 ounce. That's going to be my keel weight. The other 2 jig heads are going to be 1/8 of an ounce. So it's a fairly light rig. I'm a shallow water fisherman, so I tend to fish a lot more shallow water than I do deeper water. So I've always wanted a rig that I didn't have to chuck and wind offshore. I can go up shallow and I could easily cast this. I fish this on the Mach series rod. It's a 7'6" medium heavy. It's my spinnerbait rod. This is the ratings of it. It's a fine spinnerbait rod. And I match it up with a Johnny Moore Signature Series, I think a size 10. It throws this bait very well. You can put your favorite swim baits on there. All the hardware has already been upgraded. You have no problems with the hardware on these baits when you receive them. That's one of the benefits of buying from Tactical Bassin with their name on it, or anything Hog Farmer. Something else to, you know, order extra is these little clips that you put, that come and put. Sometimes they'll get stripped out, damaged, whatever it may be. It helps to have a couple of these little extra things. Plus, you can utilize these on other baits for other things as well. I recommend getting large size and maybe a medium. No real place for the super small ones, I have found out. Some of your split rings, if you want to upgrade those, I highly recommend utilizing the Hyperwire split ring from Owner. They literally have 50-pound breaking strength. This is what Tactical Bassin replaces a lot of their split rings with on a lot of their baits, especially when they're trophy fishing. Well, they pretty much trophy fish every time they fish. As far as swim baits, I recommend picking up this is the cheapest route, I feel like, is Bass Pro Shop Speed Shad. I'm not too picky with the type of swim baits I put on there. They have just great colors you could pick from. I'm not affiliated with Bass Pro Shop at all, but it's a place that I've shopped at for 20 plus years. So I have the 3-inch, the 3.5, and the 4.5. I can utilize those 3 sizes on my rigs no matter what it is. I can change it up, and I can make it real small and real finessey, and compared to a full 4.5-inch swim baits. I can even put 5.5-inch swim baits on there if I wanted to. I recommend picking up one of these little boxes and keeping all your jig heads in there. Blades, extra jig heads. Try to keep the rust out. Inevitable here in the state of Washington, but it just keeps everything all locked away and ready for you to go through when you need to. Far as that is, you can also pick up some of the Spike It Dip and Glow, and you can dip some of your, if you're fishing stained water, you can dip your head of your swim baits in this, rig your swim baits onto your jig heads, and then you dip the tails in the chartreuse, or vice versa. You could do the head in chartreuse, and then you could put the tail in the orange. But remember that this stuff has acetone in it, so if you dip your soft plastic too far in there or too long, it's going to eat it. Just keep that in mind. So just a quick little dip, that's all you need. Other than that, I'm going to show you guys and gals next areas where I fish the umbrella rig. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a place to fish this bait, or how I fish this bait. We have a famous Mouth Creek area, coming into a Mouth Creek right here. So in theory, there could be some fish out here waiting to slide up, move up. There's all types of bait running around on the lake. There's all types of cormorants, you know, fish eating birds. So it's not a bad spot to start. I fish a lot of little pond type lakes, little small lakes. I know this bait works better around specific areas, but once again, this is a bait that utilizes up shallow. You don't really have to have special gear to be able to throw it. Easily get away with a 7'6" heavy action rod, just a typical flipping rod. You could throw this on braid, 50-pound braid, 65-pound braid. It's not going to kill it. I just like 20-pound fluorocarbon on my 7'6" medium heavy rod. I fish a lot of heavy covered lakes, trophy lakes, I should say. I fish a lot of featureless lakes. Somewhat featureless. It's not your typical features that a lot of people fish these baits with. But this is, once again, this is what works for me. It may not work for you. I tell you, it works for me, so it could work for you. A lot of lakes that I fish with heavy cover, I can't really take my eye off the bait, or it's prone to snag. Talking about Lake X for all my local viewers. All right, another spot to fish this umbrella rig around is around laydowns. Just gotta be kind of cautious not to snag the laydown. You can play with your retrieve speed. You can play with the depth you're fishing this bait. You can fish it up shallow. You can fish it out deep. You could count it down. You could let it sink all the way to the bottom if you wanted to, and then jerk it up and start retrieving it out deep. A lot of the lakes I fish are shallow lakes, but this particular rig totally works for me up shallow. I've caught some freaking big fish with this bait. I have yet to catch 2 fish over 5 pounds on it at the same time. Possibly 3 if it was in the perfect conditions and just a smack dab at the right time. Definitely still on the old bucket list. But this is a bait you could throw all day long and not have it fatigue you. This is bait number 5. And last but not least, I got to give you at least one swim bait. It's going to be a big swim bait as a dark horse for the month of December. And it would be this 10-inch mag draft. This is a big swim bait. Probably has caught so many double-digit fish, so many personal best fish in the month of December. It's unbelievable how many big fish will eat a big bait like this in one of the coldest months on record. Just to think about, it takes special gear to be able to throw this. This is a 6-ounce soft plastic swim bait. This would be my dark horse for the month of December. A big swim bait. It doesn't have to be a 10-inch, could be 8-inch, could be 6-inch, just whatever your preferred method is. But I highly recommend just experimenting and getting out there on water instead of sitting indoors and getting fat from all the food you eat. Get out there and experiment a little bit. At least figure out the shit you don't need to do, as I always do. Normally find that type of stuff first. Anyway, this is going to end the video for my best baits for the month of December. Yes, it's December. Soon it's going to be Christmas, and soon the new year. I appreciate everyone watching. Be sure to hit the like button. Comment below if you feel like commenting. Until next time, SwimBait79 out.